Unpopular opinion. Okay, so unpopular opinion. All the stories are true. All the stories are true. I remember some years ago, I read a book called City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. And the main character, Clary, saw a bunch of magical things happening for the first time, right? And she likened it to a lot of her favorite fairy tales that she read growing up as a kid. And she says this to another character, Jace, and he responds, all the stories are true. So she's like, oh my God, this is just like the fairy tales. And he's like, all the stories are true, right? And that stuck with me for years and years and years. I read this book a while ago. And one of the reasons why I was thinking about it today is just very recently I started thinking about because I've been on like this binge of like Russell Brand, watching Russell Brand's podcast, Stay Free, watching a lot of Whitney Webb. And it seems like a lot of the conspiracy theories that people like were bringing up years ago, like in the 90s, even in the 80s probably, are being proven true today, or at least at the very least being proven to have some merit, right? So I remember like growing up, anybody that would suggest life, intelligent life from another planet visiting us was instantly seen as like a crackpot, living out in the woods, completely off the grid, booby traps all around the house, and a tinfoil hat on their head, right? But as I started to learn like science, I started to realize that we've only explored less than 1% of the universe. I think it's more likely that there is intelligent life out there, or at the very least, life out there. There has like, I think it's better to say there's life out there than it's just us in the whole entire universe. I think that's like saying, right? You go to one house in one town in one state, and you go through the whole house and nobody lives there. And you're like, nope, there's no life in the whole country. It's just us. We're the only ones here, right? It's kind of similar to that. So I think it's not only possible but probable that there is life out there. And to say that there's life that's intelligent enough to visit us, that's another story. But at the very least, I think it's probable to say that there is life in the universe somewhere. We just haven't seen it because we don't have the intelligence to find it. But for some reason, anytime anyone even made a mention of seeing a UFO or being visited by extraterrestrial life, we would immediately say, no, you're out of your mind, crazy. Lock this person up somewhere, he's out of his mind, right? This was like in the 90s. But then so you start learning things, you're like, wait, it's kind of likely that there is life out there. The universe is just so big. And then you learn, like we've learned recently, probably like 2018, something like that, that even the Pentagon has been dumping millions of dollars into investigating extraterrestrial life. So it starts to seem not as crazy anymore, right? So I'm like, all the stories are true, right? And so like I started wondering why do we all have like this almost the same belief system, and what kind of constructs this belief system that we're all confined to, right? Because it's like we all believe almost the same thing. Like there may be two sides, and we hold to certain values on one side, and then other people hold to certain values on the other side. But like the belief systems are almost the same across all lines. And I'm wondering, like, who designs this, right? Because we're fed half truths. I won't say lies, but we're fed half truths from grade school, right? Christopher Columbus discovered America. All these things, like we're fed this, and then we get older and start realizing, like, wait, that doesn't really make any sense. And then we get older and we turn into adults, and then we get fed the same thing through the media almost. You know what I'm saying? Like it seems like the media covers certain stories in a very biased kind of way, and we're starting to see that with the introduction of like social media and people like kind of taking media into their own hands. So we don't really have to rely on mainstream media anymore, and we have other sources of media, and you could kind of pick apart these stories and kind of derive the truth as it fits whatever values you hold. You know, some people will go this way if that aligns more with their values, or other people will go another way if that aligns with their values. But the belief system, I think, the construct is the same across the board, right? So I started kind of thinking like, who really constructs this like box that we think inside of? Once upon a time in America, anyone who even suggested that the CIA had something to do with the sitting president being assassinated was ridiculed, shut down, ostracized, ran off. Today, we have a presidential candidate, a potential presidential candidate running on that theory that the CIA assassinated his uncle and needs to be disbanded. And so we're living in the age where some of the most outlandish things that we heard some time ago are starting to actually be relevant today. Think of some of your favorite science fiction movies that seemed to be just entertainment at one point in time and completely impossible but cool to watch. Like Star Trek, for example. The Enterprise goes through a wormhole, travels thousands of light years across the universe without missing a beat, right? Well, then you learn that one electron can occupy two positions, 2 points in space, and not only communicate with each other, but whatever happens to one happens to the other instantly. I am the particle, I am the wave. I was a god, and then the king, and then the slave. The Homo sapiens been going ape again. Yakub is going back into his cave again. I am the beginning, I am the end. I'm where that stops and this begins. I am new life from an old age. I am Prometheus in the Stone Age. I am what goes around, I am what comes around. I am who I am even when the sun... And then that starts to seem less like science fiction and more like a possibility. So I think it's a little bit of truth in every story that we heard and every conspiracy theory that we heard. And we're in an age today where a lot of these things are coming to light. It's a very strange time to live, a wonderful time to be alive as well. And so I want to challenge every person viewing this to kind of challenge some of your belief systems and think outside the box. Take something that you think is completely outrageous, whether it's something you've seen in a movie, something that you heard from a friend, something that you read in a book, something that you completely wrote off, and try to look at it from a different perspective, try to look at it from a different angle, do some research into it, or even if you don't want to put that much energy into it, just try to look at things from a different perspective. Okay, if you have a lot of liberal views, try to put yourself on the other side, and I think you'll see that, okay, maybe it's not that crazy. You know what I mean? Even if you don't 100% agree with it, it's not something to be completely written off, right? And even on the flip side, if you have a lot of conservative values, put yourself on the liberal side of things and say, okay, well, I can actually see how someone could feel like that, even though I don't. And I think that's very important for us to do today, because with all these things coming to light now, and we're starting to see like we weren't always given, the full truth, and we're very closed off. It's like a time where there's just so much information that you would think people would be more open to different possibilities and other ways of thinking, but it seems like people are becoming even more closed off, even more closed-minded, and that could be dangerous. So I want to challenge everybody to kind of like open up a little bit, open up your mind, expand your thinking, try to view things from different perspectives, give people your ear, listen, to understand, not just to react, not just to respond. You know what I'm saying? And we could all try to learn things from one another. As always, I want you guys to love each other, take care of each other, be kind to each other. Try to be open-minded, expand your mind, expand your thinking, remain open. You know what I mean? Even if you don't agree with something 100%, you don't immediately have to write it off. You could, you know what I'm saying? You could understand without adopting those values, you know. You could be empathetic to someone's situation without completely shutting it down. And I'll see you guys on the flip side. I love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. I am the winds that sail a ship. I'm not the source, but I'm a wisp. I am the order from the chaos. I am that. I am this.